This is Chapter 1 Test Review for 6th grade. And make sure that you get this signed by a parent for extra points on your test. Number 1, which has the greatest value? Okay, so I'm just going to put them in order from least to greatest. And in negatives, remember the number that's further away from 0, negative 17 would be your least. Then you would have negative 15. But this absolute value of negative 16 turns this into 16. Remember, absolute value is never, never negative. Then you'd have negative 14. Then you would have your 16, even though that is the absolute value. So the greatest value is going to be your negative 16 of absolute value. Okay, number 2, order negative 5, negative 7, 0, and 4 from least to greatest. Least to greatest. My least number, remember, in the negative world is the one further away from 0. So that's going to be negative 7, negative 5, 0, and 4. So your order would be from least to greatest. Number 3, the locations of 3 fish relative to the water's surface is negative 18, negative 31, negative 26. Which distance has the least absolute value? So if I took the absolute value of each of these numbers, it would be 18, 31, and 26. So which one of those is your least number? Number 4, which has the greatest value? Remember, if I have a number line, it's the larger number is going to be closest to 0. So we have negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, negative 4. So which one is your greatest value? Be the one closest to 0. Number 5, fill in the blank with less than, greater than, or equal to make the following a true statement. So 2 is what to negative 3? 2 is greater than negative 3. Number 6, evaluate the following expression. What is the absolute value of negative 8? Remember, absolute value is never, ever negative. So the absolute value would be 8. Number 7, fill in the blank with less than, greater than, or equal to make the following statement true. Negative 4 is what to negative 3? So to determine which one's the larger one, which one would be closer to 0? Negative 3 is going to be your larger number. Number 8, fill in the blank with less than, greater than, or equal to make the following statement true. Negative 6 is what to negative 4? It's less than, because negative 4 will be closer to 0. Number 9, which situation is best described by a negative integer? 5 feet above sea level, ahead of the car by 1 mile. So here's a car and then here's a car. So we're ahead by 1 mile. The gain of 2 feet or the loss of 10 yards. And we're looking for a negative number. When you lose 10 yards on the football field, you're going backwards, which would be a negative number. Number 10. Which integer represents the situation 6 yards behind the winner? If I'm behind, it's going to be a negative. So it can't be A. And 1/6 does not equal 6. So it can't be those. So it's got to be a negative 6. Number 11. Locate the set of integers -3, -1, and 2 on the number line. So we're looking for -3. That one doesn't have it. -3. That one has a -4. I need a -3. So now I'm down to 2 choices. I need a -1. So that's there and there. -3, -1, and I need a 2. Well, that one's on 1 and that one's on 2, so it can't be this one. Number 12. What is the opposite of -132? Opposite of a negative is your positive, 132. 13. What set of integers is graphed on the number line to the right? Okay, we have a -4, -4, -4, -4. This one doesn't have a -4. -2. This one doesn't have -2. This one has -2, -2. So we've eliminated 2 choices. Now the last one needs to be a 1, not a 0. Number 14. Which list shows the temperatures in order from coldest to warmest degree in Fahrenheit? So when you have a thermometer, to remember, the colder it gets, it's going to drop down into the negatives. So we have a -10, 8, a -5, and a 0. Coldest to warmest. Well, right here we have a positive in front of a negative. So that one cannot be it. All your negatives need to be in the front. So this one can't be it either. So -10 is going to be colder than -5. So that cannot be it. -10 would be your coldest temperature. Number 15. Which list shows which of these sets of numbers contains all integers? Integers are whole numbers and their opposites. It does not include fractions, percents, or decimals. So there's a fraction and an irrational number. There's a fraction. There's a decimal. This is the only one that doesn't have fractions or decimals. So these are all integers. Number 16. Which fraction is equivalent to 0.5? So if I write 0.5 as a fraction, think of your money. 50 cents is what of a dollar? It is 1/2 of a dollar. So it's not this one, it's not this one. And 5/10 equals 1/2. But because I had to simplify, 1/2 is your answer. You always want your answer in simplest form. Number 17. Evaluate the following expression. The absolute value of -14 is 14. Remember, absolute value is never, ever negative. Plus the absolute value of 5, which is 5. Number 18. Which graphic organizer correctly groups the following numbers? 3.4, -2, 3, and -1.2. Okay, so 3 is a whole number, -2 is an integer, and those are rational numbers. I agree with that. Whole numbers cannot include a negative. Whole number, integer, decimal cannot be in an integer. So whole number, integer, so your answer is A. Number 19. What is the best classification of a -4? Okay, if I were to go up here and put -4, it cannot be a whole number, but it can be an integer, a rational, and a real number. So real, it's more than real. Irrational and real, okay, but it's also an integer. So integer, rational, real, whole number. -4 cannot be a whole number, so your answer is B. Number 20, a meteorologist at a TV station reported that a town received 0.95 inches of rain. Which fraction is equivalent to this amount of rain in inches? So in looking at my answers, because I love to eliminate my answers, this is improper. 9/5 would be more than 1. So it's more than a whole. 95/10 would be more than a whole. And this is not even a whole number. So I'm left with my choices of A and B. You can divide 19 by 50 to find your answer and 19 by 20 to find your answer. But let's think about this as common sense. If this is almost a whole number, if I rounded it, it would become a whole number. If I made it to a percent, it would be 95%. Which one of these is closest to a whole number? 19/50 is not even 1/2, because that would be 25/50 would be 1/2. This is more than 1/2. 19 out of 20, it's almost a whole number. So without doing any math, process of elimination, this is closest to a whole number, and this is less than half. So my answer is B. Number 21. How is -5/11 written as a decimal? Well, I know it's going to be a negative, and 5 divided by 11, because that's what fractions are, division problems. 5 divided by 11. 11 cannot go into 5, but it can go into 50 4 times. That would be 44. So subtract that would be 6. Add your 0, bring it down. Now 11 can go into 60 5 times. And then you have your 5, bring it down, and that's going to be 4. 44. And that's going to leave you with 6, and you see the pattern. So it's going to be 0.45 repeating. Remember, that is called your notation bar. Number 22. Alyssa will correctly label the numbers on the number line below. Which number will be located closest to 49? So this is what I want. Look at your tenths. Here's 48, here's 49. These are your tenths. So 48.4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 48.5, and 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5. So that one would be there. 48.09. So your tenth is not even a whole tenth. So it's going to be before the tenth. So we know no way that one's it. And that one's not closest to 49. So 48 and 3/5. So 3 divided by 5. 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times. So this one's going to be 48.6. And that would go right here. So this one is closest to 49. So your answer would be D, as in dog. Okay, number 23, fill in the blank from less than, greater than, or equal to make the statement true. you have a negative 1.4, and you have 3/4. Just the fact that this is a negative and this one's a positive makes it larger. Number 24. Order the following set of numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so least to greatest, and we want, say, the greatest to be 0 because they're all negatives. So your least one is going to be the negative 82.5. So that would be your first least one. And then you've got a negative 41, negative 41 and 4/5. And then you have a negative 4 and a negative 13. Well, negative 13 is going to be least. And then the closest one to 0 will be 4.3. Because they're all negatives. Number 25. Fill in the blank with less than, greater than, or equal to make the following statement true. Okay, so they're both negatives. They're both 24s. This one's 0.7 and this one's 7/10. So if I wrote this one as a decimal, it would be negative 24.7. So they are equal to each other. Number 26. Jason is a repairman for an appliance company. On Monday, he drove 63.7 miles. On Tuesday, he drove 63 2/3. What is 2 divided by 3? So 3 can go into 20 6 times. And it's going to be 6 repeating. So we're going to do 63.6 repeating for Tuesday. Wednesday is 63.8. So you should know by now 8/10, and this is your 10th spot, is written as 0.8. And Thursday, he drove 63.095. So which day did Jason drive the greatest distance? Remember to look at your 10th spot. And you're looking for the greatest distance, which would be Wednesday, 63.8. Okay, on the back, what is the ordered pair for point A? Remember, this is your X, this is your Y, X, Y. So A, we would do our X first, would be 1, 2. So we went backwards 2, and we went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2, 4. That kind of looks like a negative there, but it's a 4. My Y got in the way. And then B is going to be 1, 2, 3. I went over 3. And then down 1, 2, 3. Negative 3. Remember your coordinate planes? This is coordinate, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's in coordinate 2. Plot the point, negative 4. This is your X, this is your Y. This is my X, this is my Y. So X's go first. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then down to negative 3. 1, 2, 3. Again, X, Y, X, Y. So on your X, you stay at 0. and then you're going to go down 5 on your y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And if you are good with your review, you will do fine on your test. If you have questions, come in before school.